Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the 19th hole live on In Between Media. Make sure you like and subscribe. In Between Media, 19th hole. Everybody else on this channel is awesome. They got everything from NFL to NASCAR to PGA Tour golf. We might be the hottest show on In Between Media right now because we're playing with house money the rest of the year. This is Players Championship Week. We're going to spend some time talking about the Arnold Palmer because, we did pretty damn good last week. We can take all the victory laps in the world, mostly from me because I'm awesome last week. I don't know how well I'll do at Sawgrass. Sawgrass is a whole different animal. Connor is going to be back ready to take back the momentum at TPC Sawgrass. But let's get started. Sawgrass Week, the players. Hit the intro. Here we are, 1 week after I called a 250-1 long shot winner. Shout out NorCal. Kurt Kitayama, first PGA Tour win, the pride of Chico, California. Not only does he win the Arnold Palmer Invitational in an elevated, designated PGA Tour event, he held off 3 of the top 5 golfers in the world to do so. He held off after tripling number 9 and falling behind by a shot. He was out of bounds by a couple inches. Cards a 7. Comes back. Wins the damn thing on a birdie on 17 that was, he played that hole perfectly. And then 18th, he's got 2 putts from 50 feet downhill, 20 foot of break left to right. And he was 1 dimple away from jarring that sucker too. $3.6 million. I'm $1,300 richer off a $5.30 bet. Shout out to the Dirty 530, everybody watching. Kurt Kitayama, friend of the show, baby. We're champs. We are champs. You're a lot bigger champ than I am, but I feel vicariously in good spirits this week because I can't do much better than that. I'm playing with house money for the rest of there's 23 tournaments left on the season. I can play all my regular stuff and it's house money. Connor, how are you doing?
I'm just excited to listen to you talk about Kurt Kitayama for the next 30, 40 minutes.
It's just too much. It's been too much. And you would think the guy who got what he said 300 messages on Sunday after he won the damn Arnold Palmer Invitational over all these top golfers in the world, Rory breathing down his neck, Scottie Scheffler coming down the stretch. There was a 5-way tie for the lead when he hit 17. That's insane. 5-way tie for the lead, and he's the guy that pulled it out. And all I did was say that he fit the course well, because when I looked at my stat model last week, he was down a ways. I think he was 50th out of 120 in my stat model. And I was just like, you know what? Screw it. And how about we bring that up? It's a 1-minute video. It just recaps what I said about Kurt Kitayama last week on the betting side. I proposed him as a value pick in DFS, but mainly 250-1 was what I was after.
Did you know you're TikTok famous now?
I am?
Oh, yeah. It's on the TikTok.
Oh, damn.
The kids are watching it on the TikToks.
I always thought that was a breath mint, but here's me last week talking about eventual Arnold Palmer Invitational winner, Kurt Kitayama. And I guess I'll do it. Shout out NorCal, Kurt Kitayama. Long hitter, right to left ball flight. He's used to the West Coast Bermuda, which is same on fairways, different on greens. It's going to be really tough to ignore a guy that just meets all those markers for what we talked about, not stats wise, because he's not playing great this year, but the ball flight, how his game fits the course. So you can't overlook course fit with a guy because his stats are bad, because we just saw Chris Kirk win when his stats weren't that great, but he just fit the course. It really came down to which golfer is going to go out there and just win. And so even though it's top heavy, throwing a guy out there with like, I'm going to put in $5.30 from the Dirty 530 Chico, California, Kurt Kitayama from the top rope at 250 to 1. Ooh. And did not every single thing I said come true? Is this the weirdest thing ever?
Yeah, but no, I mean, I seriously, and we'll save more of the detail when we get into spin it back. But I mean, again, driving the point home. I mean, this is one of these guys that we jumped on first
Last
tournament
year.
of the year,
Yeah.
and we've been
halfway through last year when he was a rookie.
Yeah, and especially you. I mean, you've been banging the drum super hard for Mr. Kitty. So I'm excited he got his win. We both were in agreement like it was coming. So super pumped.
Even I didn't think he'd be at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. That's for damn sure.
No, especially what did he triple off on 9?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was out of bounds because the cart path, if your ball is on the cart path, you're in bounds. But if it's off to the left of the cart path, the whole ball is off the cart path to the left, it's out of bounds. And his ball was 2 inches off the cart path to the left. He did hit a provisional. He got up there, found out it was indeed out of bounds. So he played his provisional. He was hitting 4 from the fairway bunker, and then he was over the green. Then he was short of the green, then over the green. Ended up getting a triple bogey. Went from a 2-shot lead going into the back 9 to 1 shot behind 4 guys. And then by 17, there was a 5-way tie for the lead, and he jarred the birdie on 17 and then held on for dear life on 18 with all the pressure in the world. I mean, other than a major, there's not more pressure than having 3 top 10 golfers tied for you at the lead, and then you're having a 1-shot lead going to the last hole, which is no gimme. 18th at Bay Hill is a beast. Yep. And he had the nastiest. I can't even imagine feeling my legs, let alone my putter stroke, with a putt that fast with that much break. And not only did he 2-putt, he damn near rolled that sucker in. I thought it was going to be the Tiger at 16 at Augusta with the Nike swoosh just rolling over. But the last blade of grass on the rim of the cup stopped that ball dead in its tracks. And I just love that fuck you move where he marks that ball so that he can finish off after everybody else. That was classic NorCal, marking the ball for a 1-inch putt to win 3.6 milli.
I think, and I actually thought for a first huge win like that, I thought marking the ball was more than. No, I actually thought it was super valid. Like, soak it all in.
Yeah. It's all about you at that point, because he was in the final group. There was nobody left to play. He just waited till Hatton holed out, so that was it. But it was savage. Like, you could very well have just walked up and tapped it in, not thinking about it. But we have to talk about his new caddy. Just incredible story about how his older brother, Daniel Kitayama, who I played against in high school, he played for Chico High. He went to Hawaii Hilo for collegiate golf. He wasn't quite to the level of his little brother, but he's now a caddy at Bandon Dunes. Well, Kurt Kitayama's new caddy used to be Bryson DeChambeau's caddy when he won at Bay Hill, and he won 8 tour events with this same caddy, and he quit 2021 when Bryson was headed to live. He was scuffling, doing all the long drive stuff, dealing with injuries. This caddy up and quits, goes to work at Bandon Dunes up in Southern Oregon along the coast, where Daniel Kitayama is a looper too. So they're friends. They're looping together at one of the premier golf resorts in the world, Bandon Dunes, just up the freeway from me. And they become friends. And then Kurt Kitayama's looking for a new caddy. And he asks his older brother, hey, who should I hire? And he said, hey, I got Bryson's old caddy right here working with me in Bandon. I'm sure he'll do it. And he does it. And the rest is history. Like, that after that triple bogey where he turned to him after he holed out for triple bogey, he's down by a shot now. And you could see he was searching. He was like, oh, geez, what do I do now? Like, I had this lead. I had the 36-hole lead. I had the 54-hole lead. I had a 2-shot lead going into the 9th hole. And now I'm not leading anymore, suddenly. one bad tee shot, and that's all it took. And apparently his caddy said, "You look good." and Kurt said, "All right, yeah, it's one bad shot. Let's." And when everybody else is trying to scratch and claw to make birdies on the back nine at Bay Hill, he made par after par after par, and the field came back to him. And then that one chance to make a birdie on 17, that's really what did it. It was him making pars on holes 10 through 16. I think if he had like completely shelled up and folded after that triple, then that would have been understandable, because that's a catastrophic hole to have with a 2-shot lead in a big tournament like that. And his ability to make pars on that back nine, that's what amazed me, because it was just one clutch shot after the other to save par on that. I mean, we're talking brutal stretch of holes where everybody else is making 5s and 6s. That was really what stood out to me, was how he held it together, thanks to a new caddy who has tons of experience winning tournaments, especially at Bay Hill. I mean, it's just it's a team effort. It really is. These guys are all good. This caddy already says that Kurt Kitayama has everything you need tools-wise. He's an elite ball striker. If he could hit fairways with the driver, he could win. Well, this guy, Kurt Kitayama, was 74th on tour in driving accuracy, was number 2 in the field at Bay Hill last week. So he did something right.
Yeah, it's for sure. And again, it's a time where the numbers weren't going to tell you, weren't going to guide you towards Kitayama. It was, and that's where doing research and knowing the players and really sticking to what you're visually seeing sometimes is an important part of this game too. Because if you just blindly set up a model, or you blindly went in and looked at some of the PGA standings or world golf rankings, I mean, you're not gonna see anything jumping off the page for Kitayama last week. But knowing some of the skill set that the kid had, and something that Bo and I have said pretty much consistently about him, is just all it was going to take was 1 week where he just putted average and
hit fairways
and pretty much, I mean, I wouldn't say he was lights out on putting, but the fairways gained metrics, and his ability to just muscle the ball out of the deep rough when he was in those situations, like especially coming down 18, that tee shot was not great. He put himself in kind of a rough spot, especially with his ball flight and having to bring it back in over the water out of the deep rough. And he walks up and absolutely hits a nail. And, it's a 42-foot putt, but then unrattled, unfazed, steps up and damn near
one of the greatest putts I've ever seen.
So
if you look at the behind angle of that putt on 18, it's insanity how fast that green is, how downhill, downgrained, left to right. Every putter's worst nightmare with 2 putts to win. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, and really, honestly, I mean, even Rory, they're cutting a Rory sitting in the players' lodge, just waiting to see what happens. And from 42 feet, especially with Kurt's track record with putting, a 3-putt was not out of the realm of possibility.
Definitely not. No, I was jacked up, anxious. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'm just trying to put myself in his shoes, sitting over that putt and reading it.
That thing like 10 feet. I would have choked that so bad, so much pressure.
Oh, you would have rolled it past. I would have rolled it past by 20 feet just from the adrenaline. But it was crazy. I'm still just amped up in excitement. Let's spin it back officially.
Before we do that, what are you drinking tonight in your celebration?
Oh yeah, good idea. We're going foolproof because I mean, why water it down when you're feeling this good? 1792 foolproof.
One of my favorite all-time bourbons.
This is a West Virginia store pick of the foolproof 1792. And I got to tell you, this juice is stellar. Like even your regular run-of-the-mills foolproof 1792 is exquisite juice. This stuff is just special. Like somebody went in to this distillery and figured it out, because this store pick is fantastic. Shout out to my buddy in West Virginia that shipped this to me. When he found it, he thought of me, and he's like, do you want this bottle? And I was like, yeah. So he ships me the bottle. I mean, it was perfect. I'm drinking to Kurt Kitayama. now officially qualified for the Masters this year. Shout out. He would have qualified by his world ranking. He was 42nd in the world, top 50 in the world, get invited the week before. He's now 19th in the official world golf rankings with this win. So, whoo, baby, automatic qualifier for the Masters with the victory. And chances are he would have gotten in anyway, but toasting to Kurt this fine evening. He's got the players this week, and I wouldn't say he looks bad this week. Maybe doesn't line up with Sawgrass quite as well as Bay Hill, but I'm not counting him out.
No, you can't. I mean, you can't, especially after that demonstration. I am drinking Windsor Canadian.
Holy crap. Is that a plastic jug?
It absolutely is, with a little bit of Coke.
Damn.
And I'll tell you why I'm drinking Windsor Canadian. Because when DraftKings continues to beat the shit out of me week on week, this is all that I deserve.
Hey, and $11 for a handle, can't beat it.
I'm telling you, $11 and you can throw that.
Did you pay more for the Coke than you did for the whiskey?
You know that I did. That I did.
Hey, the good news is if you drop it, you almost wish it was glass so it would break. But it just bounces up and back into your arms like a bad habit.
Yeah, no, for real. It's a salute to Royal Slade, my Canadian.
Yeah, Royal
brethren.
Slade, my guy. My guy, he did really well in DFS last week. Let's hit the spin it back just so we can play tribute to one of our best viewers, Royal Slade from Calgary, Alberta. Don't you know? So we have been talking about the Arnold Palmer Invitational already. We're officially spinning it back. Let's talk about the DFS side. I did pretty well on that side too. I did get off the schneid. I had a 3-week losing streak against you. I accidentally forgot to save my official lineup with a couple of my favorite guys, including Kitayama, but I still beat you with my other lineup that I started with. So I will take the victory lap on DFS side. Royal Slade won $100 on DFS using our picks combined. Like you could tell he took a little bit from both of us. So that's what we're talking about. Victory.
Attaboy.
Cash money, homie. I hope they paid you in American dollars because the loonies aren't worth much.
I've heard the Canadians make out like bandits.
Oh, they do. They're killing it. They are killing it on exchange rates. Proud of you, Royal. Keep it going. I did see there was a FanDuel Sportsbook Canada, which is not eligible. I found out from Royal himself that you can't play FanDuel in Canada in the state of Alberta, in the province of Alberta. So unfortunately, he was not the Canadian bettor who placed $50 bet on Kurt Kitayama and won $16,000. I thought it was him at first because it said, I mean, how many Canadians were going to be betting on Kurt Kitayama last week? I was like, come on, tell me it's Royal. And he said it wasn't him, but shout out to that Canadian bettor.
I can think of 3 dudes that might be on another very successful golf show that are Canadian who probably were the bettors on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we've given Kurt a ton of time. Hopefully we can get Kurt on the show someday in the near future so he can tell us.
He did reply to me on Monday. So amazingly, he's still not too busy to talk to his old buddy from a long time ago.
We're gonna have to press him and get him wild before the fame gets him.
No, he's such a nice guy. He's been really responsive on Instagram. Just telling him what's going on and saying that, hey, we know things got a little bit more complicated all of a sudden, but we were interested long before you won a PGA Tour event to have you on the show. We want to have you on the show. We know you're a great guy, so we want to have you on here so we can ask you some questions about the life on PGA Tour. That's really what this show is all about. Is we want to get to know the golfers in a way where we can break down your game. We can say, hey, these guys play well at these courses because of such and such. But we also want it to be more about the golfer themselves, so we can kind of drill down a little bit easier. Because I mean, Kurt Kitayama winning at Bay Hill is crazy, but we saw it coming a little bit.
For sure. I mean, like I said, there's a handful of these guys that we've been tracking, we've been excited about, and that was super cool to see. You know, and we did, I'd say, fairly well in general across the betting board. Like we had several guys that were T5, T10. Rory was right there at the end, who we called as if you were going to pay for one of these low odd guys, Rory was going to be the man to do. So he was top 5. We got Terrell Hatton, top 4, who was also right there. We had Cam Young, who was T10, right there.
Mm-hmm.
J-Day at T10, right there.
Check.
You know, and even some of the guys that we took some misses on, you know, Xander was kind of fighting until Saturday. And kind of
Xander just wasn't making the putts that I expected out of him. And same with you. You were like, hey, Xander's got the chops to do great things. He just wasn't on. You could tell he was a little bit off. Same with Homa. Homa kind of hit the skids.
That was my next guy.
He was there. Like Xander and Homa were our guys that we kind of argued about last week. And they were both there, but neither one of them was quite on their A game. And that really made a difference because it was going to take every bit of their A game to win that tournament.
No, for sure. And like Xander, I mean, Thursday, you see him walk up and knock in that 22-foot birdie putt. And I'm just like, whoa, all right.
He's here, baby.
And then the weather showed up and it tapered off pretty quickly. But, you know, JT was somebody that we talked about who I think this week we've got a little bit of love for him again. But, you know, JT had some good shots, had some good moments, but just never really was there. Minwoo Lee, we can put him on the island. Bo's right. I will eat.
He's not ready. He will be there. And within 2 years, Minwoo Lee will win on the PGA Tour. He just, for me, I didn't see the form that would translate to that type of event. Like, I think Minwoo's going to win like the Rocket Mortgage or the Shell Houston Open one of these times. And you were like, okay, let's now see what he can do in a designated event. Let's see what he can do against better competition. But I think he has to take that step first, because just because you win on the DP World Tour doesn't mean absolutely anything on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of those things where I'm not going to beat this dead horse because we're going to disagree on it. But if you look at Minwoo in 2022, I mean, he has competed at some of these bigger majors, and done just fine. And I think the nuts and bolts of this is Minwoo Lee, at least for the last 3 weeks, has been really, really good at playing par golf. And then when the weather kicked up and he wasn't able to get a birdie here, birdie there to offset his bogeys, now all of a sudden we're plus 10 for the tournament, which when I was saying earlier about drinking Windsor in honor of my DFS lineups, I was very excited to play Minwoo. I thought that was going to be like my secret edge for the week, and Minwoo tanked about 30%.
While we're talking about value picks, how about my guy Pearson Coody at 6,100? What did he finish at Bay Hill, by the way?
I think he was 8th, 9th.
And
I'll say this: I like.
He looks good, man. I hadn't heard of him until earlier this year. He comes up. He looks really good a few weeks ago, and like, you know what? Hot golfers stay hot. Like, I want to see the guy that's red hot. 6,100 is just like you're only going to play that guy if you have Rahm and Rory in a lineup and you just have no money left. But that's what I did. I played Rahm and Rory, and of course, Rahm's the one that screws me. Of course, right? You get Rory and Rahm in the same lineup, and it's not Pearson Coody that kills you.
But again, I was going to say, like I think to exactly what you just said, Pearson Coody is not somebody I'm dialing up weekly. But last week when you said that, I probably should have taken it a little more serious, because you're right. He was playing red hot, and I think he continued it this week. I don't know that this is going to be a week in, week out thing with
Sawgrass is a whole different animal.
but John Rahm is, you want to talk about guys that we kind of were less than excited to play. John Rahm proved
The dummy fade finally worked.
and he proved almost precisely what I said. He was not good at putting on very fast greens. He wasn't particularly on point with his driver. I mean, it was, I think you messaged me on Friday and you're like, hey, you called this on Rahm. And, the bottom line was Rahm was pretty heavily owned in a lot of spots. So,
and he shot 65 on Thursday. So we were like, ooh, crap.
Yeah. But, it's again, as the course played tougher, as the greens got faster, as the days
they started tucking pins on Friday.
Yep. So I think I'm pretty happy that we were in the camp that was off of Rahm. So I do have to poke fun at you though. Ben on, super good call.
Terrible.
Yeah, that WD scored a lot of points.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just like Dietrich the week before that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we were both on Dietrich, so we'll take the sword on that one. But yeah, Ben on, it was a bad play. It happens. Plenty of those. Stay tuned for plenty of bad plays this year that we're going to bury under all our good ones.
Yeah, we'll do a 15-minute intro for the good plays, and then we'll just skim over the bad ones. I'll go over the course real quick, and then we can get into some bets because I think we're going to have some disagreement when we get to DFS. So I want to give us a little bit of time to go over that.
I have a course description,
which
it's a Pete Dye mindfuck.
And it gets worse when you do what I do and you go and download the yardage book. And then you sit there and you analyze landing spots and shape of the course and placement of traps and the optical illusion created by water that isn't in play but looks like it's in play off of
false
steep
fronts everywhere.
Yeah, and waste bunkers. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting week for sure. So Sawgrass got 144 players in the field, top 65 in ties, make the weekend. Former champion Cam Smith, who I just read is planning on making a spectator appearance this week.
Yeah, I saw that. That's great. I hope he does.
Your yardage is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 7,150 to 7,200 yards, give or take. Par 72. Got about 77 bunkers that are actually in play. 17 of the holes have water visible on them. I would say closer to 12 it actually could come into play. It is Bermuda again, overseeded with some POA and some bent. So little bit different on your fairways and your roughs than last week, but your greens you should expect similar, except that the greens I think here are a lot more contoured, a lot I believe it or not, a lot more breaks and can play a lot faster than even last week.
Huge breaks, big green complexes with tons of undulations. Like I don't think there's a course on tour that has more double breaker putts than Sawgrass, which is crazy because you'll get a putt where the first half is left to right into the grain, and then you get the last half is down straight downhill down grain, and good luck stopping it if the wind's blowing. Like last year when Cam Smith was coming down the stretch and accidentally pushed one on 17 to the right of the hole and got really lucky that the ball didn't get doused. It's insane because if you just landed in the wrong spot on the green, you could be just as screwed as if you missed the green altogether.
And I think you hit a key point, and why what I'm looking at this week is a little bit different too with putting and such. The green complexes are significantly bigger. So as we get into some of the stats and the DFS plays, I have a little more emphasis on approach and proximity target ranges, things like that. Just because greens in regulation, like we were able to get away with last week, even in comparison to historical tournament history, you're really not going to be able to do that this week. Just hitting the green is not putting you in the cup, and not by a long shot. So you're going to want
just being on the wrong side of the hole can leave you completely stranded.
Right. And so I mean, we talk about approach every single week, and yeah, approach is important, but approach is paramount here this week. Like you really, really need a strong and accurate approach game. Otherwise, yeah, 3-putt avoidance, which is something I know Bo has in his modeling. 3-putt avoidance might be important too, depending on how your approach metrics are rating out for the guys you like. So, a couple of things to know with the hole setup. You do have par threes. All of them are going to be about the 180 to 200 range, with the exception of the 17th, which I think they've got set up at 155,
140.
160, something like that.
They shorten it even on the weekend. They'll put it at 143, 144,
Just a
and
little
just
pitcher.
just tuck the pin. Where if you hit it at the middle of the green, you're looking at a 30-footer for birdie, or if you miss to the right of the hole, you're pretty much in the water.
Well, in that front pin location that Lowry holded on, what, a year was that last year? I think it was last year before.
Yeah.
Right down in the front, and you've got that nasty slope right behind the hole and water all around. That hole is one of the more.
It's just a miss hit away from a double bogey. So,
and it's one of the more frequently birdied par threes on tour, but it's also the most frequently double bogeyed par three on tour. So,
it's a mind fuck. It's Pete Dye mind fucking you into thinking that a pitching wedge is a tough shot.
Yeah,
and all these guys can hit a pitching wedge from 145, 150. And stick it close on any other play, but even though that green on 17 is gigantic, hitting it from 145 when it's surrounded by water, it makes it look so tiny out there. And even the pros think that it's a challenge to hit that gigantic green with a pitching wedge, and it's amazing how effective that hole is at separating the guys who are going to win and the guys who just don't have it that week.
Well, and you got the grandstands there too. I mean, tons of pressure. There is on top of the typical Pete Dye optical illusion shit going on. Then you add in some, white barrier grandstands behind this green, and this is a tricky shot.
So far away.
This is not. This is definitely not just a little 3/4 swing pitcher.
No.
Make your putt and walk off. So this is one of the more dramatic holes that you see on tour, and you kind of hope and pray that you've got a tight race on Sunday coming down the stretch, because this one, followed by the 18th, which is one of the notoriously most difficult par fives.
Disgustingly difficult with water hugging tight on the left all the way down.
It's a fun stretch of golf if you got a real competition going. But I did want to touch on this. The par fours on this course are some of the toughest on tour. These are not your typical par four type scoring holes. So I would really, personally, what I did is I focused on par three and par five scoring. Par fives on this course are kind of the opposite.
They're actually gettable.
They're definitely gettable by literally everybody. And on top of that, it has somewhere in the neighborhood of a 28%. I was trying to figure out the numbers, 28% birdie rate. So these
especially are 16 when you're coming into that final stretch. 16 is definitely a birdie hole, not a hole, because it's just barely over 500 yards. And a lot of guys, even if they lay up, they're pinpointing a wedge from 100 yards. And so if you get a guy who comes down the stretch and pars number 16, they're at a huge disadvantage going into the last two holes.
Yeah, and I think the backside, getting into some kind of piggybacking off of that, getting into some showdown stuff. The backside of this course is definitely, I think, where you're going to see more of the birdie streaks. It sets up a little bit better making the turn. 1 and 10 are set up to be, I think they call them the doppelganger holes. They're set up to be mirror images of each other. And they're both a pretty decent little just handshake. There's nothing crazy difficult about either one. And then you go 11 through 16. Those holes are actually all pretty gettable holes. But like we just touched on, 17 could be a birdie, it could be a double bogey, and 18 is, again, it's brutal. And there's water the whole way home on it. So,
and if you bail out right, you're in pine straw. Good luck.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and that's, there's a lot of pine straw, a lot of trees on this course. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get yourself into a mess of trouble here. So, the key stats that I looked at in building our models for betting and DFS, I looked at strokes gained approach. I looked at strokes gained off the tee, bogey avoidance, par 5 scoring, par 3 scoring. I did look at some driving accuracy metrics on top of the strokes gained off the tee, just making sure that we're getting people that can be accurate, because this course does, again, require some precision. And then I looked at a bunch of different metrics on putting, bunch of different putting ranges, 3-putt avoidance, putting on fast Bermuda, putting on lightning fast Bermuda. So I
All the
spent
above.
a lot of time looking at putting. I think the one that I didn't weight very heavily, I shouldn't even say very heavily, I didn't weigh it at all, that Bo did have was shots gained around the green and some scrambling metrics. So those are some other metrics too. If you do have guys again that you think maybe are good plays, but don't necessarily have the acumen when it comes to accurate approach shots, that might be some metric to mix in there to see if they counterbalance with their around.
I wasn't very heavy on around the green, but I just threw it in 5 or 10%. So yeah, for me, it was just important because if a guy is not hitting his approach shots, scrambling and around and getting into the hole for par is how Tiger Woods won on this course twice, where he I think finished in the top 10 less than half of the times he played this course and won twice. But when he won twice, Tiger will tell you he basically said, I'm going to make pars on every hole, but I'm going to get a birdie on every par 5. And at the end of the week, you're going to be 12 to 14 under par, and you'll have a really good chance. If you par the par 3s and par 4s and make birdies on all the par 5s, that's the way to get around Sawgrass successfully. So the par 5 scoring, to your credit, is exactly right, because if you're not taking advantage of these par 5s, you are going to lose.
Yeah, and I definitely think too, speaking of scoring, I mean, it's important to know that generally speaking, that the cut line at this event after 2 days of golf, 65 of these guys, in previous years it was 70, are going to be at 1 under. Like 1 under is
2 under, 1 under. Yeah.
1 under is the cut line more often than not at this tournament. So,
yep.
Just keep that in mind when we say that this is not necessarily a course that you're going to see a ton of birdie after birdie after birdie, ton of scoring on. I would say that, I think Bo just touched on it. The end score for this tournament could be somewhere, I would say 9 under to maybe 12 under winning score.
Yeah, I think I ranged it from 10 to 14.
So yeah, we're in the same ballpark. So weeks where we go heavy on birdie or better rate, or DK scoring.
This ain't it.
You want guys that just keep their points. They don't have to make them in bunches. You just want them to keep.
Well, and let's hit the club twirls. Let's get into betting. I want to touch on, like last week it was ball flight and trajectory. This week I think it's going to be a lot different for me. I'm going to be looking for a certain type of golfer that you can't find in the stats. So let's twirl some clubs. And I know you're going to argue with me because I'm going to say it's a thinking man's golf course, but Bryson DeChambeau did win here, so
I'm not going to argue with you one bit. Like I think that
you have to plan your way around this course.
You do, and if you look at some of the stats that correspond with this course versus other tour events, you got shorter driving distance, you have more accuracy, you have less scrambling stats. 3-putt avoidance. I mean, this is a very, I think it sets up very similar skill wise to last week. And now the players you want are going to be a little bit different.
Bubba Watson won here.
yeah, but skill wise, and if you look at the stats that those guys had when they won here, with the exception of Bryson, Bryson's a fluke. But even Bubba, it was putter was on fire, driver was fine in the fairways, driving distance was excellent for Bubba when he won here.
Sticking approach.
Yeah. So, but to kind of piggyback on the Bubba statement, why I say that the archetype of the player you want here is a little bit different. Bubba can shape the ball any which way and crooked.
That's the key.
Last week,
creativity,
right to left was the prevailing. Like we said, right to left is who you want here, which it was who you wanted. They were all the guys at the top fighting for it for the most part. This week, you want guys that can push that ball either way. So
yeah. Left, right, up, down, thinking 2 shots ahead even. where you're preparing for your approach with your tee shot. Not many courses on tour, maybe Augusta National. If you're lucky enough to get invited to the Masters, it's a lot of the same stuff, maybe just on a higher scope at Augusta than Sawgrass. But Sawgrass, Pete Dye literally is a mad scientist that forces you to use your entire bag and to use every shot that you've ever learned how to hit, even if you never practiced it before this week. He's going to demand that you shape the ball around trees. He's going to demand that you hit solid contact on every shot, or if you're off on your yardage, or if you hit the ball even slightly, you are absolutely screwed. Driving distance means absolutely nothing here, because if you play the course how it's intended to be played, you just have to put it in the right spot to have an approach shot worth hitting. If you miss the fairway here, you're in big trouble. If you short side yourself off of one of these greens in the collection area or water, of course, it goes without saying you are absolutely screwed. This course is great for the guys who do well. The guys that come in playing well are going to probably still be playing well. But if you're scuffling with your swing at this course, it is going to eat you alive, especially the putting stroke. That's one thing, is if I'm looking at the last 24 rounds or even the last 16 rounds and you're not putting well at the moment, I don't want you at Sawgrass. I don't want anything to do with you at Sawgrass, because if you don't have good feel for your lag putting at this place, you're not going to score at all here. Top of the board. They're all good.
I was going to say, kick us off, and we'll quit rambling.
John Rahm's getting a little bit of a relief on 9-1 instead of 6.5-1. I kind of like him here at that, even though he didn't necessarily pop in the stat model for me with what I was looking for. I mean, just look at all his stats. He's number one in quite a few of them. So if you like getting a little discount on Rahm, I can't fault you one bit for the way he putts. He's an amazing putter. He's an amazing approach player. He just gets a little squirrely off the tee. With this course, he can hit iron off a lot of these tees. He can hit 3-wood off a lot of these tees, because as long as he gets the right number in his hand in the fairway, John Rahm's going to outclass anybody.
Yeah, I'm probably a little more in on John Rahm this week than I was last week.
Same.
I will say he is number one in this field over the last 36 rounds for par 5 scoring, which
Shocking.
We already talked about being pretty important this week.
He dominates par 5s.
If there is, again, Bo just kind of hit the nail on the head with Rahm. There's a few holes in his game with off the tee play, especially with the driver in hand, that I think are going to be somewhat mitigated here this week. If you look at him statistically over the last 36, not great at hitting the fairway, but I think we're going to be able to take the driver out of his hand quite a bit here. And, as you're looking at the betting board, this is the polar reverse of last week. I'll take the extra point or two and go up from Rory to Rahm, because frankly, Rory did what Rory is kind of becoming infamous for. Like, he played just good enough to be in the last couple of groups on Sunday and just couldn't get it done again. John Rahm is different. John Rahm is in one of those last 2-3 groups. John Rahm wins that and Kitayama doesn't. And that's just the difference in having been there, and that killer instinct that John Rahm has every time he's got the finish line in sight. So,
yeah. I think my favorite guy to start off with is Max Homa. Short game wise, I mean, we're talking about a red hot golfer. Red hot. One of the best putters on tour, one of the best short wedge players on tour, great approach player. Max Homa 22-1. I can't find anything wrong with that. Can you?
No, not really. The only thing, the only point that I would make on Homa, and I probably won't be as heavy again on Homa this week, and even statistically last week, this was true, was having a hard time finding the fairway. We really don't necessarily need that here. And he's also in the lower quarter of this field for par 5 scoring over the last 36.
That's true.
So I like Max Homa. I'm not saying that I wouldn't throw a few bucks at him. I'm not saying I wouldn't play him in DFS. I'm just saying that there are a few things with Max Homa just to know before you're betting him. in that same price range, I kind of want to take a couple of shots at Justin Thomas again,
Yep.
and specifically for the approach portion of his game. I just they're really
and wedge play. Is there a better wedge player?
Not really. I mean, and Justin Thomas, even though he's wayward off the tee, even though he hits some errant approach shots, Justin Thomas is a guy when he's on can hit any shot shape you can throw at him.
And he owns Sawgrass, owns it.
So Justin Thomas, to me, you can get him at the same price at some books.
Yep.
Justin Thomas, I think, different than Max Homa, has the potential to win the tournament. I don't know that I see Max Homa winning this week. It's just kind of my hold up with him.
Those are my top two guys as far as what I'm betting the most on, are those two guys, JT and Homa. So I'm not gonna argue on JT, because JT just, I mean, he I think it was 54th in my stat model, but the guy just comes up Sawgrass every year in his top 5, and he won 2 years ago. Come on, man. JT, if like Kitayama last week, if JT finds average putting on this course, he's going to win.
Yeah, and as long as he keeps his driver and his approach game in check, like that's the only thing, is when he starts getting that snap hook going. God help us, but yeah, like JT, I will tell you the guy that I'm pretty excited about that's further down is Jason Day at plus 2,800. Rates out incredible, keeps playing well, has great course history here. Really creative shots. If he gets himself into trouble, he finds a way out.
He can putt too.
He can putt too. And we've mentioned this before with Jason Day, but I really like Jason Day in a tournament nowadays where he doesn't have to go in excess of 15 under, which I don't think this tournament's getting much. I think the tournament scores somewhere in that 12 range. So Jason Day here, I think out of all the tournaments we've had so far, I think he sets up really nicely for this.
We kind of skipped over him, but he was the image on our thumbnail. Scottie Scheffler, I don't like his odds. His odds are too short for me. I don't like his price on DFS. They're too short, too expensive for what he's worth. He still models really well. I'm just like, value-wise, I'm off Scottie Scheffler this week. Will I be surprised at all if he does really well? Not at all, because I mean, the guy's just world-class in every aspect. The problem with me is that he is not a versatile ball striker. Like he's a scrambling fool. Like if the guy's off a little bit, he can still he's like Jordan Spieth, where the guy is playing like absolute crap and still finds himself in contention on Sunday because he's just so good at getting the ball in the hole. For me,
we said this last week about him though, and I'm going to say it again. The nice thing about Scottie Scheffler is you don't have to be brilliant at shot shaping when you can hit the ball within five square feet of the shot you want every single time. He continues to prove that he can do that. I just
don't know how well that's going to work at Sawgrass, where you have to be creative, and he's not, though. He's not a thinking golfer. He's a reactionary field player. I appreciate that about his game. If you're talking about a shootout type tournament, there's nobody I'd rather have. But for me, I just can't do it. I can't do it at the price he's at.
I don't want to bet him. I love him for DFS, and we'll get there relatively soon. But
yes. You had Jay Day. What are his odds again?
I'm showing him at 28-1 most spots.
Okay, it's solid. I had Chris Kirk, I think, back a similar course structure to the Honda Classic, where you got to think your way around. I mean, it's another Pete Dye course. Chris Kirk didn't model especially well he modeled okay at the Honda, but I mean, just that type of player, just a grinder, the guy that can make every shot, the guy that's mentally one of the smartest guys on tour, one of the guys that can just make every shot that he can picture. He's getting incredible odds. I can't even remember what his odds are, but I remember when I wrote it up, it was incredibly long for a guy of his quality who has 3 top 5s in his last 4 starts, including a win 2 weeks ago.
No, I don't hate that. I don't hate that either. I'm just looking at the odds right now. I just refreshed them and they've changed a little bit, but getting down here a little ways too. Chris Kirk, you're getting him at 80-1.
That's insane.
Yeah,
That is
which
insane.
seems like a really good value for him on this type of setup. I would say down from him, I really, really, really like Adam Hadwin at 130-1.
Now you're just pandering to the Canadian audience.
I knew you were going to say that. God, we spend too much time together. You're getting predictable. So Hadwin is somebody that I play from time to time. He has good course history here. It's also, he is kind of a thinking man golfer. Like, he's not the longest. He has good approach. He can get a very hot putter. He's got good around the green game. He's a very well-rounded golfer, and he's kind of that steady Eddie. So he's not a guy that I want a 20 under birdie fest, but again, lower scoring finish. I think Adam Hadwin is very live to compete here. And you could, hey, if you don't like the outright, don't take the outright. Go get yourself a T10, and it's still good at odds.
I got you there. That T10 is pretty appealing because his odds are ridiculously low. One guy that has crazy variance in his odds is Tom Kim. He models third overall for me because he's a pinpoint ball striker, one of the best approach players on tour, even at 20 years old. We both have our doubts of whether he's ready to win a tournament of this caliber. But, I mean, if we're talking about guys that are smart, who can hit every shot, especially on approach, and maybe hopefully find a putting stroke, that's the only thing that worries me with Tom Kim. But he's between 35 and 50-1. It's a huge variance, but I think 35-1's plenty fine for a guy that can make a lot of birdies, especially on par fives. Because you take driving distance out of the equation, this guy's still scoring on par fives.
Yeah, and I've got him pretty well leveled out at 40-1 almost everywhere now. So 40-1 on Tom Kim. I like that type of golfer this week. I like Sung Jae. I like Adam Hadwin. I like Tom Kim.
Yeah. I'm glad he said Sung Jae too.
So, yeah, those are. I'll be honest. This is not a tournament that I want to go fishing a lot at.
No, because there's so many holes as you go down. Like, there's something that's a major flaw in the game or their current form that scares me to death on a lot of these guys down the list. I was going to play some 300-1 on Sam Ryder because he modeled so well, but apparently he's questionable. He might withdraw because it's undisclosed what his issue is. But chances are, if Sam Ryder WDs, then we're just flushing money. But 300-1 on him for how well he modeled 11th overall for me. Sam Ryder was going to be a fun one to play, but I backed off of it. And then I ended up going 180-1 as my really, really long shot. Can't even remember who it was. Man, I'm out of it. I had Hoagie at 100-1. Just great ball striker, smart player, pinpoint accuracy, the best proximity player in this field. That's kind of the constant. You get a course like Pebble Beach that forces you to be pinpoint accurate with your irons. It's a Tom Hoagie week. It's like a Pavlovian response where it's like, oh, we need ball strikers, Tom Hoagie, right?
Tom Hoagie. Yeah.
Tom Hoagie.
I won't fight you.
We sound insane, but it's true because
we are insane.
Yeah, but we're good.
Yeah, we are good.
Now I gotta find out.
Two guys down here that I really like, way at the bottom, and I would go small investment for an outright, but I would definitely look for a good number in a T10. I really like Eric Cole at 400-1. He can be had, and that's again an outright, but he can be had as deep as 5,100. I'm sorry, 510-1 rather. And then the other one that doesn't show up on anything that you're going to run except tournament history, that has a really decent number, and he finishes really well here, likes this place, is Doug Gim. Doug Gim at
off the top rope. Doug Gim. He's going to make four cuts a year, and this will be one of them.
Yep. And Doug Gim at 400-1 for a guy who's, I don't think, ever finished worse than a top 20 here.
That's insanity.
Yeah, that's again a guy that is not going to pop for you on a stat model,
No.
but will show up under
All
tournament.
right, I found my guy. My guy 180 to 1 is Brendan Todd. He's
Oh, that's right.
one of the most accurate golfers on tour. Great on approach, very accurate driver of the golf ball, very reliable. If this guy can make some putts, he's going to be a T20 lock. I believe he's 7 to 1 to be T20. I'll take that free money because this guy's not going to get into trouble. If he can make some birdies on par fives, then we're in business with a T20 outright 180 to 1. I'm throw $5 on Brandon Todd, the Todd father.
The Todd father. I don't hate it. Well, we are definitely going over our time tonight, but let's flip over to DFS and let's knock it down in like 10, 15 minutes. We'll go quick.
Yeah, I mean, DFS is not going to be much different. There are some great values, especially with leverage. I'll let you kick it off since you got the ownership probably in front of you. Who's our top leverage play at the top of the board?
Top leverage play at the top of the board. You would be. It's actually Rahm and McIlroy right now are pretty much dead even. 18.5% projected rostership. The first guy at 10K that's a considerable discount is going to be Xander at 12.3% projected.
I'm on Xander this week.
So I like Xander again this week.
He's so solid.
He is really, really solid. I think my concern with Xander is the part that I expected him to excel at last week. He didn't. Yeah, so you take that out of the bag right this second, at least demonstrated last week. I probably am off. Scott Scheffler at even being the highest projected rostership in this range. I just think that Scottie Scheffler is hot. I think he's quietly hot.
Yeah.
He's been right there.
He damn near won last week. Nobody's talking about it, but he was right there with Rory. He was right there with Hatton. Yeah. He was like, I was mad because he was the only guy in that cluster of guys that I had no money on. And I was so mad when he was making birdies on Sunday. I was like, Scotty, go away.
Well, and like, I'm not going to talk.
Spieth and Scotty, I was mad at them on Sunday.
I don't want to play Rahm in DFS. Like, I don't. It's just
that's where I'm different. I'm out
on Rahm, and to be honest, I am only gonna have my FOMO sprinklings of Rory this week too. Like there were a lot of things.
Completely off Rory in DFS.
Dude, Rory didn't even know what the stroke count was coming off a 12 on Sunday. Like, had no idea what the score total was. So like, he's just by just being sheer like talented. At golf.
Yeah. I'm one of the most amazingly talented golfers to ever walk this earth, but I don't really have to try hard.
Right. And that's I need some fire. And I think Please. Scottie Scheffler is my dude this week. I'm gonna roll with Scottie. So that's my top.
I get it, because even though you're eating chalk there, you can get different down the board. Like, I mean, you mentioned Jay Day, who's super cheap for how good he is. Justin Thomas at 9,400 might be where I start a lot of my lineups. And if we're doing the same like 3 in the 9s kind of strategy that's been working the last few weeks, you can get a Homa, JT, and shoot, I just go with those two, and then go down to this loaded group of 8,000 guys like Tom Kim at 8,100. Are you kidding me? Jay Day at 8,000 flat. Like, there's so much value down here in the 8s that, like, why would you even need to spend up on a guy that you're not completely confident about in DFS? But if you're going chalk on Scotty, like, you can still find leverage elsewhere. So I'm not mad at that play. I'm just not as high on him as I am on some guys that are cheaper.
No, I get you. I think, unfortunately, people are going balanced this week. Like, I've got Homa projected at 23. I got J-Day projected at 23. Justin Thomas projected at 19.3. Cantlay projected at 18.7.
I'm going stars and scrubs, and screw this.
Well, that's kind of why, like, I'd rather so to kind of to your point, like, I love Jason Day. I already talked about it in the betting segment. I probably will have Jason Day. But I think what may make it instantly different is going somebody 10 above 10K, and then Jason Day. Might make it enough different that you don't have to go super dumpster diving down at the bottom, because it definitely looks like people are starting at Homa.
That's fine with me. I'm going to do some weird stuff because I'm in the FGD listener league. I'm going to max out those 3 entries, and I'm going to do some crazy stuff with my lineup because I feel like there's so many edges here that nobody's playing, because like you said, they're all clustered. The chalk is clustered there in the 9s. What's the point of doing all that when there's so many good plays down cheaper, and then above, like you can get chalky with 110K guy and then just go like buckshot wild in the 8s. That seems fun to me. That seems like a fun lineup that it'll be easy to root for.
You can do an all Korean lineup and give a shout out to Kenny Kim.
I love Kenny Kim. That guy loves, because you know how much I play Korean golfers anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Like a couple of weeks ago, I played a lineup completely full of Korean golfers, and he definitely appreciated that. Tyrrell Hatton this week, no, because if he hits one water ball, he's going to dump his entire golf bag into the lake. He was like, this guy got second place last week and still almost imploded multiple times on Sunday just for making a par. I think he left like 4 birdie putts completely short, like by multiple feet. 10 feet for birdie, and he leaves it 3 feet short. And you're like, Tyrrell, just hit the damn ball. I know the greens are fast as hell, but you're not giving yourself even a chance to make a birdie. Tyrrell Hatton on this type of course, 1 water ball, and this guy's going to be out of contention.
Yeah, I definitely was really high on Hatton last week. I'm going to be a little more out on him this week. I'll probably still have him in some lineups, but I'm definitely not heavy exposed to Hatton this week.
Hey, the Aussie's here. Hey. Brad. G'day, mate.
He didn't come to fuck spiders.
Nope.
So somebody that I rarely will say that I'm going to play and roster is Will Zalatoris. Will Zalatoris has somehow managed to pop up number 3 in my modeling this week. And I think what's doing it is I think it's his approach game, and I think it's his par 5 scoring.
Yeah, he's a birdie machine.
So
and proximity wise, yeah, he's going to pop in proximity. The dude's a world-class ball striker.
And like I said, a little bit different than you. I'll take proximity over the putting metrics too. And so I'm banking on Zalatoris to do what he does and knock the ball close. So 8,800, he's going to be a little bit lower rostered. I'll take some Zalatoris. And right there too, I already touched on this, but big fan of Sung Jae Im this week. Thinking man's golf course, plot and scheme your way around, not trying to overpower it, consistent approach game.
And he's got great history here.
Yep.
Great history here. And we're talking a guy who you put a wedge. This guy, I mean, last year when he was in contention right behind Cam Smith, for me, it was because, I mean, we were both on Cam Smith last year all the way through. He was by far our favorite guy. And we saw if you get a guy inside of 150 yards with a wedge in his hand and then into a putter, there's 2 guys that were completely world-class above everybody else, and it was Cam Smith and Sung Jae Im. Approach game proximity with sub 150, Sung Jae Im is absolutely up there with anybody in the world. So I'll agree with you there. I'm excited to play some Sung Jae. I'll play a lot of Tom Kim too, as long as he's not too chalky. 8,100, that seems too cheap for me. Too cheap is not always great in DFS because everybody's going to kind of gravitate there when they're building their lineups, especially in that price range. If he's above 20%, I'm going to have to be out on him. But if he's in that 12 to 15%, that's kind of my sweet spot on Tom Kim. But I have a feeling he's going to be a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I think that's going to pick up some more steam too. Like Tom Kim, again, you talk about accurate off the tee, good approach game, can't get a hot putter. I mean, that's pretty much Tom Kim in a nutshell. So while I like him a lot, I probably won't be as heavy on Tom Kim just because I think you can get other guys around him and be lesser owned that have a similar skill set. But I do like Tom Kim. Play Tom Kim this week, just to be clear.
So is J-Day more or less chalky than Tom Kim?
Way more. J-Day is
way more
23. But
chalk me up to Kim, baby.
Dude, Jason Day over the last 36, number 1 in the field in bogey avoidance.
Nails.
Number 1 in the field in bogey avoidance. Number 13 off the tee. Right in the middle of the pack for approach. I mean, has good tournament history here. Is playing like the Jason Day of old. I think that's some chalk I want to eat this week. And I already said it. I think Jason Day is live to take a run at this.
So one guy that I'm not betting, but I'm definitely playing DFS is Sahith Theegala. 7,600 for Sahith. Par 5 annihilator. Sahith. This guy kills par 5s. This guy is 11 out of 12 on cuts with 5 top 10s this season. And he's in 80 fantasy points a week, is in a league of his own in this price range for DFS scoring. I don't think he'll be chalky at all because nobody's on him. But for some reason, he's not getting any respect. And this guy went to Pepperdine, which is a private school. He's smart. He's going to think his way around a course. He's a great ball striker. Like I said, he's going to make some birdies on these par 5s. If he can hold himself together on the more challenging par 4s, we could have something. We could have a jumper for DFS scoring there. And then, of course, Hoagie. I'm all about the Hoagie this week in the 7s.
I'm going back to, if we're in the 7s.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the Korean Ric Flair.
Siwoo.
Siwoo.
He models really well. I don't know if I can bring myself to do it.
Excellent.
But another guy that does well here. Yeah.
Excellent tournament history. He's won this tournament before.
Yeah, he did. It was a long time ago, but it was back when things were simpler. Times were simpler when Siwoo won here. Yeah. Back in my day.
I'll be dialing up some Siwoo, and then I am going to jump back on the Keegan Bradley train this week too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's no way you can go without Keegan Bradley here.
Nope. Good tournament history again. Has a shot shape that I like for this course. Has been playing. He's right there with Jason Day. We've talked about this before. Playing like the Keegan Bradley of 10 years ago. So I'll take some Keegan in my mix for sure. And then somebody who I'm still going back and forth on right there in the 7s, and then we can get into the 6s. I'm going back and forth on how much I want to play Brian Harman. Brian Harman has hold on, just hear me out again. Brian Harman, accurate off the tee, good approach game, can get a hot putter, good tournament history here. I mean, really good tournament history here.
Yeah, recent form is as bad as it gets, though.
It's not great, and that's why I said that's just somebody that I'm doing a little more dive into previous history at this course. But if you want a little homework project, Brian Harman might be somebody for the listeners at home to go take a look at, because he does have really good course history here, which there's not a whole lot of courses you can say Brian Harman consistently plays well at. This is one of them. So.
Yeah, I mean, and this course does, again, correlate to Pebble Beach, where Brian Harman is consistently in contention. So, and I get it. I just, when I look at his last 24 rounds, it makes me want to throw up. It's been so bad. I think he was plus 16 last week. Just ugly miscut. Just can't do it, especially when you have your guy, Canada, Mr. Looney, Adam Hadwin at 7,100 this week. What a deal. What a deal. His wife is one of the best follows on Twitter there is. Always making fun of Adam for saying things that you're not supposed to say as a husband. I've prayed for Adam Hadwin so many times because his wife shared so many relatable things about Adam as a husband. I like the guy. I just don't love him in this tournament, but in DFS, that is dirt cheap for a guy that can really contend in this thing.
I'm a big fan of Adam Hadwin this week in DFS. He rates out well for me. I'm with you. He's also, like, him and his wife, fun follow,
hilarious,
fun guy to root for. I like Hadwin. I'm not. I get what you're saying with Hadwin. There are some holes and there are some issues week in, week out. But again, plays well here. This is his type of course where he can hit to a spot, hit a solid approach, make a couple of putts, get out of here. And he is pretty good at avoiding getting bogeys and big numbers. And on top of that, he's a pretty good putter, and he actually gets better at putting the faster the surface. So I like Adam Hadwin a lot this week.
Any guys you're going to dumpster dive on? This is kind of the opposite of last week, where we had a few guys that did extremely well. I mean, Kitayama last week was 6,800. Pearson Coody was 6,100. Those are both guys we keyed in on the DFS front last week. I'm not sure that there's anybody I really love down here because of how solid the 7s and 8s are. Is there anybody you want to play down here?
I actually have 5 guys that I want to play down here. And actually,
is one of them Kitayama?
Actually, no.
He didn't get any bump. He's still 6,900. What's going on?
That's the beautiful thing. So
the number 19 golfer in the world is under 7K.
Talking to a buddy of mine, Tim, who watches us every week. Usually can't catch us live, but does watch us every week. I was telling him he's new to DFS golf. And I was just talking about how there are certain tournaments during the year that you get an edge because the pricing comes out early, namely all of the majors.
Comes out on Sunday.
All of this pricing is reflective of what they projected would happen last week and not what actually did. So that's why you see a lot of skews in the pricing. But what I was going to say down here is that I am pretty interested in playing Joel Dahmen. Joel Dahmen somehow is in the top 20 for par 5 scoring. I'm not real sure how that works. I love old bucket hats.
Somebody's got to be the 70th golfer in the world. Might as well be him.
What's wild is he isn't playing like the 70th golfer in the world for the last 36 rounds, though. Really, he's excellent. He's in the top 10 off the tee in most metrics. He's actually been right in the middle of almost every field for approach. And like I said, he's in the top 20 for par 5 scoring, which I wouldn't have expected with Joel Dahmen. So at $6,800, that's, if you find yourself down here, Joel Damen's a real golfer. He's
not fake.
He's a real player who had a camera crew following him around on Netflix. So you can, take some solace in that. He's
so relatable. He's a regular dude that just happens to be really good at golf.
The most regular of dudes. And then kind of right below him, Justin Suh. So Justin Suh, I mix him periodically, but I just can't ignore the fact that he is hitting everything he looks at. Great at the par 3 scoring for the yardage that this course has for each par 3. If there's anything that worries me with him, it really would just be some of the approach distance from getting out toward like 175 to 200. He's not fantastic at. But I think his driving will make up for that. It'll kind of get into more of the ranges that Bo was talking about, where you're in your 130 to 150 range, which Justin does pretty good at.
Yeah, and he's Kurt Kitayama's best friend too. So there might be something in the water here in Florida where we get 2 guys in a row that they play well, and I think there's something to the Bermuda thing, because even though Florida Bermuda is different on the greens than NorCal Bermuda, is you saw that Kitayama number where he was 93rd in putting overall, went down to 41st on Bermuda. That seems like a sweet spot. So I will say for DFS, not betting, I don't think Kitayama is going to go back to back this week. But for DFS at 6,900, that's an edge because the dude's playing lights out, and he's an amazing ball striker.
I think you got a better than average chance of getting him into the top 20, and especially
if he can make the cut, that's already profit at that price.
Yeah, I'm wholeheartedly with you. But yeah, I like, if you find yourself down here, I definitely will tell you that Kitayama is gonna be chalkier than the rest of these guys.
Oh, for sure.
So you got to make sure you get weird in the middle.
We had our chance.
Who else was I going to rattle off before we get out of here, since we're way over? Davis Riley. Davis Riley, somebody that I said.
He's playing so well too.
And I said,
hey, we're 78 on Saturday. My God.
Starting to see some stuff out of him. And what's he doing?
He would have won by 5 if he shot even on Saturday.
I know. So Davis Riley, rounding back into form. Davis Riley, we have been fans of Davis Riley for well over a year now.
Yeah, we love this guy.
So I really like him, and he rates out well in a lot of metrics.
Streaky as hell.
He is very streaky.
He's a heartburn. He's a heartburn play.
Eric Cole, 6,200. I'll go back to Eric Cole.
For his recent form, that's cheap. That's cheap.
We glossed over this, but my boy Nico Echevarria.
Congrats, felicidades, Nico.
Won the Puerto Rico Open last weekend. So me and Bo's drumline came to town.
Our babies both won in the same week.
And Nico is down there at almost bare minimum at $6,100. So
hey, that's Pearson Cootie range.
Yep. Who also I like. And then Doug Gim, 6,100. Talked about him in betting. And then Bo, take us out on whatever you got, and we'll get out of here.
I think I agree with you down there. I mean, again, if you're going stars and scrubs, you can actually play 2 or 3 of the guys below 7, just in those big GPP tournaments. In small fields, you're going to want to stay closer to the middle of the pack. But if you're doing 150 max entries, big tournaments, getting the edges that you can under 7K, I'll agree with Nico. He's playing extremely well. I'm looking for Akshay Bhatia, but I don't think he's here this week. He didn't quite.
I don't think he is either, but yeah,
he's not here this week. I would. Oh, for sure, the dude's on fire. He just earned his PGA Tour card last week with a 2nd place finish at the Puerto Rico Open. So our guys are doing so great. I love to see it. It makes me cry with tears of joy here. I agree with your guys under 7. Those are the same guys that popped up for me. So yeah, Echevarria, and then who'd you say?
Damon, Riley,
Gim.
Cole. Echevarria.
Other than Gim, I agree with you. For sure.
Yeah, I really is the one down there I think I like the most. But Davis Riley is close. Like I said last week, I'm seeing our boy come around, and he put up a hell of a fight last week. So,
all right, let's pull up the outro before I lose it, because I'm really good at that. He didn't hit the no trunk slams the whole time, but oh well. We're already way over time. I do appreciate everybody who joined us live on the 19th hole. This is In Between Media. Enjoy the in between. From Conor Coughlin, I'm Bo McBrayer. Join us next week, Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern time. We're probably going to be victory lapping again, because that seems to be the theme this year. We're picking outright winners every single week. If you just combine our DFS picks, throw a few dollars on all of our outright picks, you're probably sitting incredibly pretty. If I'm playing with house money all year, and your guys, I know you guys are doing better than I am, because you're playing all the plays instead of just the ones that kind of narrow down at the end. Congratulations to everybody who tailed me on Kitayama last week, as well as all the other guys we had clustered in the top 10. Get to cash in again this week. We'll see you next week. Peace out.